Hello, everyone. Welcome back to our podcast, Courageous Leadership with Virginia Prodan. I'm Virginia Prodan, the host of this podcast. We are so delighted to have you today because we have a very, very special guest, and I hope that you will learn a lot from his experience for what he's going to share with us. So for that reason, make sure everything is quiet in your place. You can take a pen and pencil, a pen, a pad, and take notes because this is so important. So our guest is my very good friend. I don't even remember for how long, but he is a very good friend, Lieutenant Colonel Alan West. So thank you so very much, Alan West, for being here. Please introduce yourself to our audience.
Well, good day, Virginia. It's a pleasure to be with you. And we have been friends for quite some time, and I appreciate that. And I really appreciate your story of courageous leadership. Lieutenant Colonel Alan West, United States Army, retired. I spent 22 years in the United States Army, several different combat zones to include Operation Desert Shield, Desert Storm, Iraq. And after retiring, I spent 2.5 years in Afghanistan as a civilian military advisor to the Afghan National Army based in Kandahar. I've been a member of the United States House of Representatives. I'm a former chairman of the Republican Party of Texas and currently the chairman of the Dallas County Republican Party and also the executive director of the American Constitutional Rights Union. I was born and raised down in Atlanta, Georgia, attended the University of Tennessee. I've been married this December, 35 years, 2 daughters and 2 grandsons, and we reside here in Garland, Texas.
Thank you so very much. Thank you. So you have 2 daughters, yes?
2 daughters and 2 grandsons, yeah.
And a grandson, yes. We have a lot of uncertainty around us. You, like many people, and I know that closer to me because my son is in Air Force and my son-in-law in the Marines, and you put your life in danger. You put your life online for America's freedom. And we see America changing so much. How do you see that? How do you encourage people? Because one of the things that I notice and we hear from conservative, never from liberal, but from conservatives, that there is a shortage of people putting their lives in online like you and my son and my son-in-law because of what is going on in the military. How do you encourage them?
Well, it's very interesting, and thank you to your son and your son-in-law for their service. I come from a military family. My father served in World War II as a corporal in the United States Army. My older brother was a Marine infantryman in Vietnam. My dad challenged me at the age of 15 to be the first officer in our family because he and my older brother were enlisted. My nephew now is a lieutenant colonel in the United States Army. My father-in-law, my wife's dad, did 2 combat tours of duty in Vietnam. He retired after 24 years. He's laid to rest in Arlington National Cemetery. So I think the thing that when you have young men and young women wanting to raise their right hand to take the oath to support and defend the Constitution, to sacrifice and serve and commit themselves, they want to make sure that they have the leadership that is going to protect them in these combat zones. And I think one of the things you just recently saw was, the 3rd anniversary of the 13 young men and women, the 11 Marines, a sailor and a soldier who lost their lives unnecessarily at Abbey Gate in Afghanistan at Hamid Karzai International Airport, a place I know very well because, like I said, I spent 2.5 years in Afghanistan. And when you look at that operation, that withdrawal in Afghanistan, it will go down as the greatest strategic, operational, and tactical debacle in U.S. military history, even far worse than what we saw happen in Vietnam. So the reason why we are not meeting our recruiting and retention levels is that when you have a commander-in-chief that is watching his watch to see what time it is at the ramp ceremony for those 13, when you have the complete and utter disregard of these individuals and their gold star families, that affects, young men and young women wanting to serve. You still have them, serving, but not at the numbers that are required to meet the requirements of the all volunteer military, which has always met its personnel retention and recruiting goals up until this time in the last 3.5 years. And I think it's a very interesting statistic that I'd like to share with you, Virginia, and your audience, is that right now in the United States of America, we have more single military age males here illegally than we have in the active duty strength of our United States Army. So that tells you something where the emphasis is for this current administration as opposed to our national defense and our security and the protection of our borders. And so I think that also has an impact on people. And, I still have friends, like I said, in the military, officers that I trained who, were cadets then, and now they're senior officers. This whole DEI and wokeism and cultural Marxism, you came from Romania. You know exactly this rhetoric. You've seen it before. We should not have that infiltrating into our United States military.
You are so right about this. And when I think about, the Marxism ideology, is one of the things is we have an election this year, and the liberals are promoting fixing price, that the government will fix the price for corporation. That is many Americans have no idea that is the implementation of the socialist system. When the socialist system takes power, takes control over what you produce and how much it costs and everything, and gradually will take your company over. And that's the way it is. So people have to understand and look at the history and understand what these liberals are trying to do. We'll talk more about the election in a minute, but you're very strong about immigration.
Well, can I just make one point off of what you just said? I don't think you should call them liberals anymore, because classical liberalism is really about individual freedom. These are Marxists. And when you study and understand Karl Marx, you have two branches off of Marxism. One is socialism, which is a centralized economic model, which talks about wealth redistribution, which talks about the government taking over the means of economic production, which talks about, this wedding people to the government by way of the dependency society or the nanny state, and social egalitarianism. We don't have, people that can strive for excellence. It's about equity, equality of outcomes, and it's about secular humanism. And so that economic model leads you to a restructured societal model, which is what communism is. And I think that you experienced that under Nicholas Ceausescu there in Romania. So I think it's so important that we speak in those terms, because, true liberalism is not what these people are. They, like I said, they are Marxists, they are progressives, they're socialists, and some of them are communists. And we got to understand that ideology and that philosophy of governance.
You are so right. And for those people that don't know me, they can read about this in my book, Saving My Assassin. You can find the book at virginiaprodanbooks.com/product/book. And you are so right about this. The system and the way it's built is, first of all, it starts with the ideology of socialism. Oh, everybody is equal. Everybody will have everything until the government takes control. And then when the government takes control, they take control of your life. They take control of your company. It will be a government company. They take control of your house. You will be a renter to your own house that now is property of the government. And for many Christians, they need to hear that the government will become your God. You're
Yeah.
not going to be allowed to go to church. You're not going to be allowed to go to and worship. And those churches will be closed, will be created depository for different things for the government and so forth. And if you look at what they are doing right now with all the handouts and all the things that they said that the government will provide, is gradually a transformation of America and of Americans that are able to stand by themselves, to trust God and worship God, that He will provide for them, into a system where the people, Americans, will depend more and more on the government, and the government will provide for them. That is in essence what these people are doing.
No, and that's what people need to understand. When you go back and you think about what Karl Marx said, from each according to their ability, to each according to their need. And what do you hear from these leftists in America? You hear all this talk about fair share. You hear about an economy that works for everyone. You hear all this talk about equity and inclusion. Guess what? That is the government dictating. And you're absolutely right. You don't even have control over your own children. I mean, you've heard, Joe Biden and others talk about how your children are not yours. They belong to us, being at the government. You hear people talking about the government telling you what type of appliances you can have in your home, what type of cars they want you to drive, even what type of food they want you to eat. So it's amazing to me that this rhetoric that you stood up against and that you fought against and that we saw collapse. Now this rhetoric has come here to the United States of America. For whatever reason, people aren't listening to someone like you that has experienced this, and they're allowing it to, I hate to say it, but history to repeat itself right here in the United States.
Yeah, I have the privilege to have lived under communists and socialists and communists, and wherever I go and speak, even those who love socialists because they were brainwashed, they wake up and understand that socialists and communists is not what they were presented. They change their opinion, they change their votes. So it's a huge responsibility for me to go and share my story and let people read the book, because it's important to understand how socialist communists will change America. And also the fact that when socialists and communists takes power, will take 30, 40, 50, and even more. Look at China, and more years when socialists will remain in power. Yeah. So that is... So let's talk just a little bit about immigration, because you are very strong on immigration, and I like that very much.
Well, it's not immigration, it's illegal immigration. I mean, you came to the United States of America and you did it in the legal process, the legal way. And so what I see happening right now is a slap in the face of people like you, Virginia, and all the others that said, hey, look, I want to be a part of this great land of equality of opportunity, not equality of outcomes. But I respect the rule of law of this country, this constitutional republic, and I'm going to do it the way that is prescribed. But what we see happening, for whatever reason, is a current administration, this Biden-Harris administration, that first and foremost, they have abdicated, they have disregarded the rule of law and what they're supposed to be doing, because the Constitution says that the federal government is supposed to protect every state in the union from invasion. And that is Article 4, Section 4 of the Constitution. And it says that when the federal government, fails in executing that enumerated duty, that the states in Article 1, Section 10, Clause number 3 of the Constitution have every right to protect and defend themselves from invasion when there is imminent danger, like we see with drug trafficking, human and sex trafficking, and terrorist trafficking. And I just find it unconscionable that we have a government that has opened up our borders to the fact that in the past 3.5 years, 250,000 Americans have lost their lives to fentanyl. And again, let me put that in a comparative analysis. We only lost, sadly, 37,000 in the Korean War. We lost 58,000 in the entire Vietnam War. In 3.5 years, we've lost 250,000 to fentanyl, which is a chemical produced in China They send it over to the transnational narco criminal terrorists that we call the cartels. They bring it across some very porous and open borders with one intent, one purpose, to kill Americans. You look at the human and sex trafficking that is going on, an administration that has lost tens of thousands, lost accountability of tens of thousands of children. Where are those children? What do you think is happening to those children? And then the terrorist trafficking that we have going on here. And it is not just the terrorist trafficking, but we also have these criminal gangs and these criminals that have come across our border. I just recently saw a clip out of Aurora, Colorado, where you had a Venezuelan gang armed. Now, these are individuals here illegally. How did they get weapons? And they are going door to door and they're extorting money from people in an apartment complex.
Yeah.
Now, how does that happen in the United States of America? But yet we're told that everything's fine with the border. We don't, I don't know what Kamala Harris stands for, because at first she was against the border. Now she's a border wall. Now she's for a border wall. I don't know where she is, but she's a failure on this issue of combating illegal immigration and making sure that we're a sovereign nation and that the American people are protected. So it's a black and white, open, shut, up and down issue.
I believe that you said that they failed. My opinion is that they are doing on purpose this.
Yeah, you're right.
They are
You're
not
right.
stupid. They are doing on purpose. They are doing on purpose to change the structure of America by bringing mentally ill people, criminals, terrorists, and many others, with a purpose to create danger for us and for many people in America, to say we need more government. And for them
right.
to have voters. There is no other reason for them to put those people, to take them late in night and place them in airplanes and put us to pay for them and place them in a hotel. We pay for hotel. We pay for all of this. And they are doing on purpose. But you said, and it's true, I came to the United States legally. I came as a political refugee from communist to Romania, and President Ronald Reagan gave me a special visa. But what I want to mention is, when I came to America, I was helped by the government, who pay the airline tickets and other things. And I paid back to the government every single cent. And I'm grateful that I pay that, because when you pay, you value freedom more, absolutely more. And also you discover that, yes, you can work, even if you work type of work that you never worked before. Like I work in daycare. I was a lawyer. I was in Romania. I came to America. I was not a lawyer anymore. But work doesn't define you. Being a lawyer or working in a daycare, I'm a child of God. That's who I am. And for that reason, I was able to rebuild my life. It wasn't easy. It wasn't hard. It was hard. But let me tell you something. These people that receive handouts, receive hotels, and they are transported by the government, they become puppets in this government's hands. And they will never have the freedom, and they will never have the courage to do it on our own. It's detrimental for them too. So they have to understand. But we also have to understand that there is a way for us to stand up and say enough, it's enough, expose what the government is doing, and support, people that are like you express, what means to stand for legal immigration, for what America is it's for. But also another thing that is detrimental in America is education.
Mm-hmm. Education is critical because, when I think about my life, my parents made the choice for me to send me to a private Catholic school in the inner city of Atlanta, Georgia. And that opens up the doors of opportunity, a good quality education. But when you see the state control of education, again, what you saw in communist Romania, it lends itself towards indoctrination and not truth education. And that's what we see happening. We see our kids being taught the leftist ideology and not reading, writing, and arithmetic. And education here in the United States of America, which was once a standard bearer across the world, is now lagging, and our children are lagging behind. And all you have to do is look at our college and university campuses and look at some of the recent protests where we have young people that are going out and supporting a terrorist organization that killed Americans a year ago and still holds Americans hostage. And, it's so funny. We have the man in the street interviews and they ask some of these kids, well, from what river to what sea? And they can't even tell you. So this once again is very unnerving. It's very alarming. And what we see is this leftist indoctrination. And now it's sifting down into the elementary schools when people are with this DEI thing saying that you have to start training your kids, about racism when they're like 6 months old. Well, most kids at 6 months, they're not talking. They're not reasoning. And so why would you, try to train your kid about what, being a racist is? And so that's how insidious things have gotten with this, cultural Marxism. True Marxism was about separating us based upon economic status. Now, this new Marxism in America is all about racial division and separation. And we've got to stand up against that.
It's the ideology of Marxists: divide people to conquer them. That's what it is. And I have to say it. America has changed so much. We came in 1988 in November, and from November to May, in November, my girls went to school to English as a second language to learn the language. And in May, they were transformed for next year to honors classes because they learn. My first daughter graduated a year earlier than her class, and governor gave her a special scholarship, and she went to SMU. My second daughter went to Harvard Law School, and there was a benefit that America offered. Kids who work hard. My son was born here and went to Air Force Academy, but America offers these opportunities today. Many students are not able to read and write because of this indoctrination. No, you don't have any more school that will equip students to go to good schools and also to exit those schools, to finish Harvard, SMU, Harvard, or law school and still be Christians, because those schools are just focused on indoctrination. And that, again, my opinion is that they are not doing because they are failing the system. They are doing because they are on purpose to destroy the education of America and destroy the culture of America.
No, look, I know we're about to run out of time, but I think that the thing that everyone needs to understand is, as you said, this is purposeful. This is intentional. These people, it may be a failure to us because we believe in the rule of law. We believe in our fundamental principles and values, but they obviously don't. What's happening in America are two competing philosophies of governance. You have seen one, and that is the progressive socialist leftist mentality, the Marxist mentality and philosophy of governance, and then constitutional conservatism, which is what this country was established upon. The Declaration of Independence, the Constitution of the United States of America, which is a restraining document on the powers of the federal government, but an empowering document to the states and to the people, because we believe in individual rights, freedoms, and liberties. That's being, turned upside down so that the individual is no longer seen as being sovereign because, their rights do come from a sovereign God. It's about the institution of government being all-knowing, all-powerful over the individual. And I think that that's the thing that we have to be focused on going forward, and not just this election cycle, but all election cycles going forward.
And that brings us to what you said, the last words, election. We still have, I believe, a free country. I still believe that our votes count. So my approach is always go and vote, and also be motivated, be informed, fully informed. I noticed lately that and the reports are saying many Christians don't go to vote,
That's true.
which is really, really bad. And also on this election, many people are not sure. They will say, "Oh, I don't want to go and vote because I don't know if my vote will count." How will you encourage people
Well, it's
on
very
this
simple.
election?
Yeah, it's very simple. If you don't go vote, yes, your vote won't count. And so I think it's all about the turnout. And what you're talking about is the George Barna of the Barna Research Group, Arizona Christian University. On average, in the presidential election cycle, 25 million Christians don't vote. 69% of Americans identify themselves as Christian, but only 4 have a biblical perspective or a biblical worldview. And that is very damaging. And if you go back to COVID, what was the very first thing the government wanted to shut down? It was churches. And that's a complete violation of the very first liberty that you have in the Constitution and the Bill of Rights, which is the freedom of religion and free exercise thereof. So this secular humanist mentality and model that is overtaken us, this whole gender dysphoria thing where God was too dumb to get it right with male and female. You can go out and make yourself your own God and be whatever you want with a little g, okay, not with the big G. So I think it's very important that people get engaged. And I'll close with this quote from Plato, pretty smart guy. Plato said that one of the penalties for refusing to participate in politics is that you will be governed by your inferiors.
If people want to find you,
Mm-hmm.
where they can you tell them how to
Sure.
find, how to support you?
Sure. You can go to the ACRU.org. That's the American Constitutional Rights Union. I'm also the chairman of the Dallas County Republican Party. So you can go to DallasGOP.org. You can find me on social media, except for TikTok, because I'm not supporting the Communist Chinese Party. And I also have a lot of my writings on Substack as well.
Okay, that is good. And also, I know that there are few weeks still that people can register to vote. And
Yes.
They can go there and they can make sure that they can print the form and send it, because it's not accepted by online. You have to do it. And, it was misleading and it was corrected on the not on the GOP, on the general.
Yeah.
So, do you have anything that you wanna say to or encourage audience before I let you go?
Well, on 17 September of 1787, which is Constitution Day, that'll be coming up not too shortly from now, Benjamin Franklin told a woman by the name of Mrs. Powell that when she asked the question, do we have a republic or a monarchy? He said, a republic if you can keep it. That's our responsibility as a citizen in the United States of America. If you want to be a subject, sure, go out and vote for leftism, Marxism, communism, and socialism. But if you want to be a citizen, stand up and protect the longest running constitutional republic that the world has ever known.
Thank you so very much for being here, part of our Courageous Leadership with Virginia Prodan. We appreciate you and appreciate what you have done and what you are doing for Dallas, for Texas, for America.
Thank you so much, Virginia. Thanks for having me. And thank you again for your courageous leadership.
Thank you, everyone, for being again here at Courageous Leadership with Virginia Prodan. Thank you for your questions, your comments. Thank you for sharing this podcast. And also thank you for your support. We appreciate you. Like I said, if you want to read the book and know more about socialists and communists, Saving My Assassin, you can go to virginiaprodanbooks.com/product/book. I hope you will take notes, or you already took notes of what Alan West share with us, and I hope to see you next time. Until then, continue to send us your questions, your comments, and share this podcast with as many people as you can, or post it on your social media. God bless you. Bye-bye.